School of Hard Thoughts podcast, and Green's going to get the video going. Here we go. Yeah, so Adobe Audition, the new updated version, we have to get used to it.
This is why you guys love School of Hard Thoughts podcast. We are just like you. We are amateurs,
Idiots.
We have other professions, and we take our time and our blood and our sweat and our tears, and we make this podcast as a not the most expensive hobby I've ever had. How about you? You've had more expensive hobbies than this, right? A couple shotgun mics, some software. I mean, how much does a authentic NFL jersey cost?
Ooh, we're not going to go into that because my wife's going to hear this.
Welcome to School of Hard Thoughts podcast. We are back at you again for another episode. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for listening to us. We have a lot of fun things coming up in the next couple of casts. Adrian, you have a couple of fun interviews coming up.
Yeah, we're going to be talking to later on today, and I'm not sure how we're going to release these. I want to stagger them a little bit, but we'll be talking to the co-founder and director of the People's Defense Initiative, Zaire Olivier, and that's going to be a very stimulating conversation. We're also, I think it'll probably end up being you interviewing realtor Tina Lee Garlick.
Oh, yes.
Realtor extraordinaire.
Going to come at you with some really good tips, even regarding, economic turmoil, this or that. She has the know-how to put you in the house you want, and she has a lot of insights on the current initiatives going on for housing veterans, and she's a wellspring of information, and I can't wait to have a good conversation with her for all of you subscribers of School of Hard Thoughts podcast. I am Gringo. My name is Green, and
I'm Ace.
The big boss, Ace, right next to me.
Adrian. So, just wanted to there's a lot. Oh, yeah, this is
a
one
lot
of those
to talk
weeks.
about.
This is definitely one of those
weeks. We're just talking about where we could rehearse and plan and email each other all we want, but
No.
Things are so hour to hour right now.
Right, exactly. And you've got that new app on your Surface that you let me know about, my Apple products. It's awesome.
Surface Pro. Surface Pro by Microsoft. We
So,
are
again-
more than happy to have sponsorship from either one, Apple or Microsoft.
Exactly, you're both.
Yeah.
So we are coming to you from, as always, well, I shouldn't say as always, we might have to change it up, but as we have so far, we're coming to you by the grace of Famous Sam's at Golf Links and Kolb in Tucson, Arizona, 7129 East Golf Links Road, the best place in America to watch sports. It's just an awesome family atmosphere. It's they have all the fights. They have the baseball package. They have Sunday ticket. They've got great drink specials. They've got great beers on tap.
Richard, some of the people, the bartenders, some of the previous owners and stuff have even opened up early so I can catch World Cup matches because I am the resident hipster of the East Side.
Right, and that there's some of the London football games.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's
for
true.
for Arizona residents, it's like 9:30 Eastern, so it's like either 7:30 or even 6:30 for us once the time changes, and I think it's November 3rd. So
yeah, Arizona doesn't need any more daylight, so we don't save it.
Yeah, we don't save it at all, which is probably a good idea, and that's actually a political idea that's been going. And it's nonpartisan, really. Like, everybody's kind of like, why don't we just get rid of this? We are no longer an agrarian society.
Well, yeah, it was originally designed for when we were primarily agricultural, when the population was about a third of what it is today nationally. And there's a great Native American proverb that kind of says, what kind of culture thinks that you can cut the end off the bottom of a blanket and sew it to the top and think you have a longer blanket?
That is awesome.
You're
That's
right.
better than my Vulcan proverb from last week.
If I could just quickly interject that aliens meme guy, that Sakalukas guy from Ancient Aliens. It's aliens.
Aliens.
Everything's
All the
always
time.
aliens.
Everything's aliens.
Certainly seems so nowadays, more than ever.
I think our president is an alien.
There's actually
Or maybe he's just an
conspiracies
asshole.
out Yeah. Whoa. Why are we bagging on aliens, man?
No, I said maybe he's just an asshole. That's what I'm saying. Like, why are we're comparing aliens and Donald Trump, and aliens are probably offended by that shit.
That's what I'm saying.
We're gonna get all kinds of emails from aliens going, no, don't fucking ever do that again.
Maybe that's where all emails come from. Well, there is no shortage of things to talk about.
There isn't.
What's first and foremost on your gray
So
matter?
when I'm at work and I'm talking to myself, which happens quite frequently.
Oh, dear.
And again, this is disclaimer. If you work for my parent company or the company that is our main client, or have any relationship to me and my career, please stop listening. Okay.
Adrian's a day trader at the NYSE.
I wish. No, please stop listening, because if there's something that offends you and then you decide that you want to tell my boss about it, and then I'm looking for a job, my next job will be John Wick, and I'll be looking for you.
Oh, man. I was thinking that maybe they would just schedule you like back-to-backs, closings, openings. And
It doesn't work that way.
yeah, but if you work for a corporation, they can't just fire you. They're going to weed you out.
They're going to weed me out. Weed.
So what's up?
I'm like a weed. So yeah,
What's up, Ace?
I'm doing my daily routine of what I do, and I can't really say what it is, but and it kind of goes against what I believe on the topic, but like I think about at least in a month, probably about 20 times, I'm like, young people need to stop smoking weed, and it really isn't about smoking weed. It's not about, I think marijuana should be illegal across the board. In fact, I am for decriminalization of all drugs. All drugs.
Sure.
I don't care.
So like how they approach it, like in the Netherlands or Eastern European countries, some of your Scandinavian areas.
I would move to one of those countries if it wasn't so fucking cold.
They make jackets for that.
No, I like Tucson. Tucson's awesome. We don't talk about enough about how Tucson is an awesome city. But anyway, I find myself frustrated because there's a gap between America's new laws on marijuana, and it doesn't really apply in Arizona anyway. But
are you talking about places that are legitimizing recreational use?
Yeah, recreational use. I think it's up to 12 states in the District of Columbia that allow.
Which, if there's any place that needs it more than ever,
yeah, right.
It's DC.
It's DC, but the wrong people in DC are smoking weed.
Yeah, that's true.
Like maybe some of our lawmakers should be smoking weed, but it goes against what I believe. I believe it should be legal. I believe that drug addiction or anything like that, which I'm not saying you can get addicted to marijuana. Those numbers are very low. But I'm just saying.
Well, I have figures on that.
Yeah.
And you're gonna know what side of the fence I fall on.
I kind of do.
If you're watching at home, you can kind of already tell where I fall.
But so it doesn't really line up with my philosophical political beliefs about the subject. But I'm thinking like that, dude, you wanted this job so bad, and now you're not going to get it because, you're like, oh, but I got my little medical marijuana card. That doesn't matter because, one of the first things that comes to my mind and everybody's mind when you have this conversation is that an employer has the right for you not to be high at work.
Especially in Arizona, a right-to-work state.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of states out there that are right-to-work, but, yeah, that can definitely hamper your possibilities of getting a job or holding your current job. So go ahead.
Yeah, but there was actually there's actually some legal pushback to that in some reporting by David Magoya. David Magoya. Yeah, they're actually looking at changing the labor laws and what employers are able to do. As far as if the law of the state says, yeah, marijuana is legal, you can have marijuana, then how can a private employer say, hey, no, you can't have marijuana in your system? And the problem always ends up being, okay, so there's the inevitable comparison to alcohol. You can't be drunk at work.
No, you can't.
But the problem is there's a quantitative, not qualitative, there's a quantitative test for alcohol. So you can blow into a breathalyzer, or you can take blood, or you can take urine, you can take whatever, and it will tell you what the level of alcohol is at a certain moment in your system. And thank you, dear.
You got it, Ross.
It will tell you what your level is. So if you're like and if you have a zero tolerance workplace, you could be a .02 and that's it. You're done.
And that's it.
You're
I just
done.
had some mouthwash.
And that's fine. But
I drink it.
that there's a problem with that with marijuana. You can't do that with marijuana.
It's correct. It's not one of those things that you can just instantly test, like with a swab or a breathalyzer.
No, with marijuana,
Because it metabolizes in your organism very differently than alcohol.
right. And also, most marijuana tests, they test for what's known as carboxy THC, and THC is tetrahydrocannabinol, which is the main ingredient of marijuana.
That's the psychoactive property
Right.
of said substance.
Yeah, and testing
Man,
for
I feel
that.
so official, right?
I know, and testing for that.
That's a blood test.
Right.
That's a blood or follicle test.
Right, and testing for that is irrelevant because you could have smoked something 30 days ago, been completely sober as a brick for 30 days, going to XYZ company to get a job, and fail the test, and they're like, sorry, we can't hire you.
A lot of the molecules in marijuana bind to fat lipids and proteins in your body.
Exactly, yeah. I mean,
And so it becomes part of your kind of fundamental, because it is an organic plant, and so your body kind of treats it as such. It absorbs it. Let's say like you did a bunch of Percocet or Xanax, or you went out and did a bunch of Coke. In 4 or 5 days, your kidneys will filter all of that out.
right, yeah, that's what's called, in medical terminology, it's what's called the half-life. So every drug has a half-life.
Correct.
And the problem is, especially this carboxy THC, which is probably the wrong measurement for these tests, it has a super long, not half-life, but super long latent
Right.
testable period. And it varies based on metabolism, on how much diet, how much you actually ingested, whether or not it was an edible versus smoking
secondhand
it.
or
inhalation. Secondhand.
inhalation.
I always worried about secondhand because spoiler alert, my mother actually used to smoke marijuana back in the day when it was completely illegal. She was like, I don't care, I'm getting high.
Good for her. Good
And
for
so
her.
I just revealed something about my mother, but it doesn't matter. She's 77. She's retired.
That girl
She
can
doesn't
go
give
out
a
and get it.
fuck about you.
She can get it. That girl can get it. She can get it. But,
I love my mom.
She's, from what I've seen, she seems to be one of the more remarkable people out there. But you're right. It does have this lingering kind of quality, and that's always. I've always been amazed how it's always been lumped in, because I've practiced the usage of marijuana for a little while now. It's helped me out. I do have my own issues. I've gone through depression. I've gone through, big changes in my life.
Now, wait a minute. Are you saying you went through depression and marijuana helped you, or you went through depression and marijuana was the cause?
That's a good question. I should really do some self-reflection and critical thinking. More often than not, though, it has helped me.
Right.
It has brought me kind of out of dark spots, because there are areas of thinking, that one can get into, and you can kind of get into a downward spiral. And mental health is something that needs to be looked at a little bit more nowadays, and not have such a stigma on, like, I don't want to tell anybody I'm depressed, or I don't want to tell anybody that I have issues. You know what?
You're sitting next to somebody who has post-traumatic stress disorder.
And you know what? Yeah. And no matter where you sit, no matter who you're sitting to, everybody has their issues. It's a human condition.
Right.
So let's just really quick rip off the Band-Aid.
Some people like robot porn.
It's okay to like robot porn. It's okay to feel sad.
It's okay to feel sad while you're masturbating to robot porn.
All over the spectrum. By the way, NSFW, put the kids to bed. I feel like Ed McMahon. All right, Johnny, let's hope the kids are in bed by now. This is fun so far. I've not done any marijuana today, which is...
Damn you.
Well, I might be lying. Anyhow, it has helped with depression a lot because a lot of people say that it affects your personality. It is correct. It does affect your personality, but I don't think it's a macro effect. I think it's a micro effect.
Yeah, well, actually, I've got a study on that.
By the way, I didn't start using the benefits of marijuana till I was 18.
Really? Okay.
Yes, I was not a high school stoner. Any of my high school friends out there can very much attest to the nerdage factor.
I was such a nerd in high school.
Oh, man.
We don't want to go there. But you were still breaking the law.
Oh, yeah, I was listening to Beastie Boys all loud and Rage Against the Machine, but also going to youth group and attending my, drama and band meetings. So, what are you going to do? But,
yeah, so there was a study about the implications of the legalization of marijuana in Colorado in 2015 by doctors Andrew Monte, Richard Zane, Kenan Hurd, PhD. And basically, I'm going to just summarize, and if I summarize it wrong, you doctors can come on the podcast and fucking correct me. But basically, it says that there were small increases in medical problems, health problems. There were some overdoses. There were some things with children using it. There were some increase in depression. There was some increase in incidents. However, the study says it's negligible.
And were these instances deadly?
No, there wasn't a single. And there's, I'm yet to find, and I haven't done a lot of research on this because and we'll get into my personal relationship with it, but I've yet to find anybody who's told me somebody that was directly killed from any marijuana use.
And how long were you a police officer?
I was a police officer for about 7 years.
And how long have you worked in the medical field?
14, yeah.
Okay, so you're talking, your combined experience over 2 decades.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just there.
And I assume you went to high school and junior high before then, right?
Yeah, I kind of did.
You'd never heard of that then.
So
an entire lifetime. But I'm making fun. But you've actually pursued a professional career in law enforcement, civil duty, civic duty, and in medical profession, and you've not heard or seen yourself an instance of OD directly resulting from marijuana.
And I haven't read anything about it. I haven't seen anything about it in regular or social media. Obviously I'm an avid podcast listener, which brought me to podcasting myself. And, everybody that I listen to that talks about it says, marijuana should be actually legal and on the shelves and over the counter and regulated and taxed and, high quality and given to people who need it.
When you talk about that, and I'm gonna say that Willie Nelson called this in I think 99, 2000. He's like, yeah, it will probably be legal, but then you're gonna worry about the problems of the big corporation. And it's gonna be Big Pot, and it's gonna be R.J. Reynolds, and Philip Morris, that already own,
because they'll be able to grow it. They have the infrastructure.
Well, and they already own so much of not just real estate and tangible equity in America, but also a lot of influence, shall we say, politically, not just here, but globally. These guys are global heavy hitters. And all of a sudden now they're going to be the guys growing our weed. I don't know, man.
Right. But so here's the flip side of where I have a personality conflict with it. So, I will say that I am for criminal justice reform. I will say that people who are in jail for marijuana use or possession or sales don't need to be in jail. They don't need to be in prisons. I will say that, employers should probably just hire the best person for the job, and if they happen to smoke weed, they happen to smoke weed. But At the same time, one of the deepest
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar comes to mind.
one of the deepest ingrained things in my personality is, and that it probably comes from the military and being a cop, is that, okay, I am for these reforms, but these reforms do not exist yet. So, if you were sitting in jail, or if you didn't get a job, or if your life was adversely affected because you couldn't follow the fucking rules, fuck you. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're allowed to roll the dice and say, yeah, I'm going to smoke some weed. But then I don't want to hear you crying about, oh, man, I didn't get that job, man. It's only weed. Well, no. You knew the rules. So, yes, if tomorrow we woke up and did criminal justice reform like we're supposed to do, and we emboldened our healthcare system to, fix the real problems, because everybody talks about paying for it. That's not the real problem. We've got to get over that hurdle. But the truth is, there are a lot of other real problems in healthcare. So if we fixed all that overnight tomorrow and let all those people out of jail and gave all those people jobs, I would be right there behind them. However, we haven't done that yet. So
you got to deal with the reality of the current
If you get a DUI for smoking weed, then
you get a DUI for smoking weed.
Yeah, I'm really not feeling sorry for your adult ass.
So the legal and prosecution and that notwithstanding, when it comes to the viability of your application, you're saying, what I'm hearing you say is that it's almost like if you're not going to get hired because you choose to smoke weed, it's almost like you chose not to get the certification in this heavy equipment or this continued education credit, so you're not going to get hired because you don't meet the standard.
Right.
You need to be at this standard to be hired for this particular position, and weed sometimes does absolve you of that position. If you chose to smoke weed, then you choose not to have this job.
Right. And what's frustrating for me and why this is even a topic at all is because, like I said, I'm saying this stuff to myself at work. I'm like, this fucking kid, man, he's a good fucking kid.
Sure.
And he's not going to get this fucking job because he smoked some weed.
Right.
And I will tell you, I go out on a limb for these people. I do the best I can.
I'm sure you do.
But it's like, if...
But you have a job that you have to do as well.
Right, and
think about that when you're getting pulled over for your speeding ticket, or you're getting pulled over for whatever. Just think that cop has a job that they have to do.
Absolutely, and that's something we need to get into at some point, because people, I think people listen to the podcast that know me. Especially if they know me from my time as a police officer.
That's all that listens to our podcast.
In Wilmington, Delaware. I know, right?
Just messing.
But the people that know me from my time as a police officer in Wilmington, Delaware, won't be surprised by some of my views. But I think some of my Tucson people, especially my liberal friends, will be like, "What the fuck did you just say?" Yeah, I'm kind of.
I'm anti-police brutality, but I understand that these guys have a job that they have to do, and it's not an easy job.
But there's things, and I'm not even sure if I'm comfortable talking about it, but
not yet.
The way we were trained and the way you have to be trained as a police officer is almost anathema to what the public would want to see.
I don't doubt that one.
The public will look at the way we're trained and go, "Oh my God!"
Yeah.
But the truth is,
that's what you deal with.
Yeah, the truth is that if police officers were trained any other way, they'd be dead. And there's enough dead police officers. In fact, I'm gonna let you talk and Google the number for the year. But there's enough dead police officers as it is. But it would be far more if we weren't trained the way we're trained, and the way we're trained. At least the way I was trained, it's probably changed, but the way I was trained, if I were to describe it to your average, everyday Joe, some of them would get it, some of them wouldn't get it, but your basic human rights type of ACLU, Black Lives Matter type of person would be like, who the fuck are you? That's what they trained you? Oh my God, the police are horrible.
Yeah. And I do have some figures here right now. But let me just say that, unfortunately, and I'm not trying to be a devil's advocate here, unfortunately, police are in a very public eye because you are the first. You're the monitors. You're not that you guys are jackbooted and like goose stepping around, but if stuff goes wrong, it's the police that show up. Whether it's a cat in a tree or a burglar in your house.
Right.
If you feel uncomfortable in our civic society, currently, this is coming to you from October 2018.
Right. So who knows what's going to happen in like a year?
If you're listening to this 6 years from now, I don't know.
I'm praying for a blue wave.
I hope everything's okay. I don't know about that, but I also don't not know about that. But it is a tough job. But there is a responsibility that I think every officer should carry with them. Okay, so we got some figures right here. Can you see them?
No, I just know it's a lot of dead cops, and I'm telling you that
it goes year by year.
Yeah.
And you see.
Yeah. So 2017 was 129.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have spikes in these areas, like when you go back to 2007. You're looking at 203. Let's see if I can't really quick.
Yeah, 2001, 242.
1970 and 1971, 72. Okay, so what we're looking at right here, look at this, Adrian. Through 70 through 76 in the late 60s, you're almost up into the 300s.
Which is kind of amazing when you think about what I was saying. It's a little bit contradictory to what I was saying because, trust me, in the 70s, we kicked your ass.
Well, exactly.
And society was kind of okay with that.
Okay, so let's just observe a pattern real quick. Okay, so you see that in the 70s.
Yeah.
See how much was happening there. You see another spike in 2007, 203, and for those of you that don't have my vision, you can't look at exactly what I'm looking at. In the 70s, you're talking numbers well above the 200s for annual, and then it's about 40 years before that, you're seeing numbers up into the mid 200s, high 200s, in the 30s.
Right.
Late 20s.
I think one of the things, though,
265. What's going on in the country at these times?
A lot of crime. A lot of crime. You have to realize that there was a lot of violent crime in those years. I think if you I think if you went, and I don't mean just violent crime against police officers. I think if you went and looked back at the crime statistics, and please don't do that, but if you went and looked at the crime statistics during those same times and you line those numbers up, a lot of cops were getting killed because a lot of people were getting killed. A lot of people were dying in violent crime. A lot of people were getting robbed. A lot of homes were getting burglarized. There were, a lot of things going on.
There was economic turmoil.
Yeah.
And when I'm looking right here...
Thanks, Jimmy Carter.
That peanut farmer really... Hey, he's still out there building houses. That guy's 90.
I fucking love him, but he wasn't a great president.
But when you're looking at... you can be a great guy and not a great president. You can be a complete cock and... Anyhow, we're looking at
Bill Clinton, complete cock, great
decent president. But he is a scumbag.
I don't give a fuck what you believe.
No, but
if you look at economically,
look at numbers.
And yes, it was. See, here's the thing. It came up, and that's what I love about these conversations because things just kind of come up. But the truth about Bill Clinton is, people on the right are going to be like, no, that was the Republican Congress. It was. It was Bill Clinton and the Republican Congress. That was the last time that we worked together.
Exactly. That was
the Republicans wanted
aisle.
Welfare reform, and Clinton wanted to increase taxes in certain areas and do some other economic things. And they said, him and Newt Gingrich, of all people, and Newt Gingrich is a complete fucking asshole, but
delusional.
But back then, him and Newt Gingrich got together and they said, okay, let's compromise. And since then, we do not fucking do that anymore.
Well, and it was one of the last times he saw a surplus.
Yeah, right.
On his exit.
Was squandered.
Well, of course it was. We're looking back at the cop statistics about how quickly they passed away, and yes, you're seeing, and that's no coincidence.
Right.
When you're seeing, here we're looking at, let's see, 1924-25, of course, you're looking at...
the Great Depression.
The Depression. The Dust Bowl's coming up pretty quick after that, in 1927-28. And then things, took a serious dive right about the entrance of World War II. 1942, it goes from
when was
126.
Prohibition?
Prohibition, you're looking at like 1921, 22.
Yeah,
and that's
so
where
there's
it really
definitely going to be a
started
lot of cops
escalate.
killed. I mean, that's
A
like
lot of that started
the
to
whole
escalate.
Al Capone
Well,
era,
exactly.
right? Yeah.
And I have my own thoughts on Al Capone. I actually think he did a lot of good for Chicago.
He did. But I mean, that's kind of like the Nino Brown type of thing.
He was like this.
It's kind of like the Nino
syphilis-ridden
Brown
Robin Hood.
The Nino Brown handing out turkeys on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It's like it's like they're gonna do a lot for their community.
Or handing out paper towels during hurricanes.
Oh Jesus Christ, that's just criminal.
Come on, no, that's
But
good.
It's criminal.
Gotta soak up that water. It's a quicker picker upper, man.
But you have to mitigate that. Like you can't put those two things together. It's like, yeah, he helped some people, but he also fucking murdered 2 or 3 dozen people. So.
Sounds like politics to me. We're coming
right?
back around to marijuana reform and your thoughts upon it. Now, let me share some of my thoughts.
Yes. Your hard thoughts.
This is a school of hard thoughts. These thoughts are super hard because of marijuana, and I'm not good at thinking. Of course, that's a lie. There are many benefits to it, but this might surprise you, I didn't start doing that till I was about 18, 19. I went through my perfunctory, K through 12 education. I lost some good people when I was about 16, 17, close to me, and that kind of threw my observation of reality. I was all of a sudden I was over high school. Reality hit me with a ton of bricks, and I was like, wow, man, I am fucking over this shit. And it was then that I knew I'd be okay with trying that, but I didn't do it just then because I had a full-time job. I was trying to get out of the small town I went to school in. Not that there was anything wrong with a small-town experience, it's just personally for me, I was ready for growth, I was ready to get out of there, and I knew marijuana wouldn't help out. But I tell you this, once I got out on my own, I was an adult. Absolutely.
This sounds like are you Holden Caulfield? I'm just checking.
I did go on the road with Kerouac, but I got a thing against needles, so I stayed okay. I don't like needles. So I'm all right. But here's the thing. I never saw marijuana as a gateway drug.
Oh, that is such a... And so here's the thing.
The true gateway
Those
drug?
words have come out of my fucking stupid mouth. They have come out of my stupid mouth when I was stupid and brainwashed when I was a cop. And I'm not saying... I don't want everybody or anybody to think that I have any regrets about my time as a police officer. I served the city of Wilmington, Delaware. I did a very good job. I
loved your job.
I loved my job. I worked with a lot of great people, and we did a lot of great things. But the whole philosophy and the way that you're trained and what you have to buy into, we had to buy into the drug war. And everything, when you study things, when information is given to you from supposedly credible sources, and we're not just talking about the people that are training you, but then and we didn't really have the internet as much as we do now, but they're like, yeah, go read a book, and they will tell you that, marijuana is a gateway drug, and we need to fight this war on drugs.
With science supplied to you from Richard Milhouse Nixon.
Yeah, exactly. So you got to believe the data that's put in front of you.
You're being trained.
Unless you're a free thinker, which, I've
here
always
you are
been
now.
a free thinker, and I always have, but I was so into the job.
You had
that
a job to do.
Those stupid words came out of my mouth. So I'm going to tell you now, marijuana is in no way a gateway drug. There are actual studies, and I'm going to let you fucking look them up because I'm not going to look them up.
You know what a gateway drug is Pixie Sticks, is Coca-Cola.
Right.
No, seriously.
Alcohol's a gateway drug.
Oh, that's the biggest one. I mean, obviously.
Bourbon is a gateway drug.
There's one of my biggest...
beer.
One of my biggest fans. God, I wish. I'm a biggest fan of his. His name is Bill Hicks. He has this whole routine about how, you're at a ball game and somebody is ornery and violent. Are they drinking or are they smoking weed? They're drinking.
They're drinking, yeah. The smoking weed guy is
all of a sudden,
they're throwing a ball around.
It's like, hey, man, far out, man. We're outside, at least. But no, I think this whole gateway drug thing is just bad science. It's propaganda. But however, I do think that there is something for, because I'm a big fan of science, I do think it's important to let the brain mature and develop, both on just the physiological level of, forming all the lobes appropriately without chemical intervention and all the neurons and stuff, but also behaviorally. Now, when you were saying that marijuana isn't addictive, it's not addictive chemically, but it is addictive behaviorally.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing that I've always. So I've kind of, again, it's a personality conflict with my intellect. It's just like, it's like, okay, yeah, you want to be a stoner, but then you're only going to be limited to like 7 careers in life. And some of them aren't even careers; they're just fucking jobs.
Yeah, they're just jobs, but that is a lifestyle choice that currently in America, the current American model, that you do have to make, and it's over a freaking plant. You have to decide huge navigational arcs of your reality based on a plant, a non-addictive, non-deadly plant. Like I got to tell you, man, the legislation for this plant has been screwy ever since William Randolph Hearst instigated the propaganda for this.
It absolutely
Look it up, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Randolph Hearst.
I'm trying to reconcile what turns out to be my compassion for young people who I want to see succeed, because they're going to be the ones wiping my ass later. And
you must have good insurance.
I do have good insurance now, for now. And I actually think that by the time I am old enough to have somebody wiping my ass, we are going to have single payer. Single payer's coming. I really do.
Oh, there's going to be a robot to do it, though.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. As long as the robot is gentle,
Yeah.
and does a good job, like, get all of
clean.
it. But I mean, I'm looking at these kids, and they're not even the millennial generation, but I think every generation gets a bad rap from the generations that came before it. And I'm looking at these kids, and like, I'm talking to them, and we're having brief conversations, but you can have a brief conversation with somebody and see that they're earnest, and there's a spark of intelligence in their eyes.
Especially coming from your police background. You get to read you're so good at reading body
Right,
language. You could probably gauge a person in about 90 seconds, maybe not know their innermost secrets, but can ascertain whether they are threatening or not.
Oh, we're all like one, mental breakdown or chromosome or event in our lives from being serial killers, but we're also this same distance away from being a saint. So the capacity for humans to be unbelievably compassionate and start foundations and give up, quit their job. How many times have you heard a story? How many times have you heard stories about, somebody lost their kid to cancer and they quit their job and they go out and become an advocate for that type of cancer, and they're a beautiful person? And then how many times have you heard about, somebody who just went out and fucking killed 17 people or sent bombs to every Democratic figurehead? So I think we are, as human beings, we are just one, and I'm trying to think of a good word for it, but we are just one electrical impulse in our brain away from going either way.
Yeah, and we do exist in what I believe is a multiverse, and so I currently think that all of us are living in what I've always called the dumbest timeline.
I don't think we're in the dumbest timeline. Not in the multiverse that I have an understanding of.
Okay.
Because there's supposed to be hundreds of millions of branches.
Sure.
And so we can't be the dumbest.
Well, I guess not. In an infinite, infinity is a big number, so yes, we can't be. We can't be the black hole of dumbest. Yeah, you're right. We're probably not that, but we're getting pretty close these days. Do you think the decriminalization of marijuana would help out some of these guys, both on the left and the right, that are taking things too seriously? And do you think it could be taken too seriously? Is pot helping or hindering any current kind of political or emotional tone in America?
I think decriminalization is the answer for everything. However, here's the thing. It has to be done incrementally. It has to be done with a intact, functioning healthcare system, because the problem is that when there is addiction, when there is abuse, when there is overdose, it is a healthcare problem. And in order to treat it like a healthcare problem, we have to have a robust healthcare system. So I'm not one of those people who are like, yeah, let's just decriminalize it tomorrow. No, we can't
that's
do
chaos.
that. Yeah, that's chaos. So I think
Not only on the criminal side, but also the economical side.
yeah, and I mean, you know, I've been in an ER. I've worked in ERs, and I've been in an ER just when there's been a bad batch, or actually, the truth is, it's a good batch of heroin.
Oh shit!
You know,
Yeah.
it's just a little too pure.
And by the
yeah,
way,
you
what
know,
the hell? How did that make a comeback, guys?
I will tell you.
It's so freaking
as
sad.
a member of the medical community for the last 14 years, I want to apologize for the opioid epidemic, because it's our fault. Because we made pain what. So there's, you know what vital signs are. Vital signs are blood pressure, heart rate,
But it's
pulse oximetry.
It's essentially your dashboard on your day to day.
Right, and that's all it is. It's a dashboard. Like, it won't. Sometimes it'll tell you a big story, and sometimes it won't tell you shit. Because I've seen people having heart attacks that have completely normal vitals. But one of the things they did.
And I walk in, and the attending takes my blood pressure, and it's just like,
how are you alive?
not
Yeah.
having a stroke right now?
Yeah.
I'm like, don't worry about it.
But one of the things we did in healthcare was we added pain as a vital sign, and we decided that to get better scores, to get better compensation from Medicare and insurance companies, that we decided that nobody should ever be in pain. Nobody should have any pain. So guess what's the best way to get rid of pain? Hey, have some Vicodin, have some oxycodone,
All these inhibitors
have some
in your brain.
Dilaudid.
Yeah.
Let's have all these opiates. And there were doctors and studies and
Have a Demerol Colada.
fucking people that actually said, oh no, this won't be addictive, they'll be fine. And these people get on these drugs long term, and then finally, you know, somewhere along the line, we see all these overdose deaths and all these people addicted and
Now
all these
educate me real
all
quick.
these problems, and we're like, oh wow, we got a problem. So what do? We just cut people off, and then when they cut people
man.
off, what's the next thing?
DTs.
You got to find it. You got to find it. You're like, I need it. I'm physically and emotionally and psychologically addicted
And
to it.
you're talking about people
So-
who had never had previous issues with addiction, so they didn't even know what they were dealing with.
It's always the guy that's at work and lifted a box the wrong way, and now he's got back
And he
pain.
wasn't addicted to cigarettes. He didn't do coke. He didn't do heroin. All of a
No,
sudden,
he was doing his job.
all of a sudden, because of the protocol of the modern healthcare system, now we've introduced him to addiction.
Yes.
And now he needs
Right.
a specific thing, and he's dependent on said provider for a specific thing.
Right. So guess what?
They're making customers, man.
Guess what? The same thing as oxycodone, and actually cheaper. Might not be as easy to find. Like, you can't go to Walgreens to get it, but you know a guy that knows a guy.
Go to the bridge underneath
and get
the
some
Walgreens.
heroin. Yeah. And so that's why we have all these heroin overdoses and oxy overdoses and pill overdoses
Addiction?
and basically opiate overdoses. And it is to the point where it's sad, it is the leading cause of accidental death in the United States.
I'm going to make a big leap right here. One of my ancient aliens, conspirator type of leaps right here. The powers that be, the shrouded figures that live for possibly thousands of years, that run everything on the globe, which I don't actually believe in, but why not? This is a podcast. Addiction is something to manipulate and manage huge amounts of humanity. Because we did that during the opium trades, between China and Britain. During World War I, we did all that. There were huge ships that were just carrying nothing but opium devices and paraphernalia, and people would, they would Shanghai a boat and stay out adrift for 6 months, growing long-ass fingernails, long-ass hair, and smoking opium. And then you go to what happened during the colonization of the North American continent. You are talking about a indigenous culture that had evolved with its environment, and they knew fermentation, and they knew grains and stuff like that. But and they did smoke a wild version of tobacco. At
Wacky
the time.
tobacco?
No. It was an indigenous tobacco plant. It was straight up tobacco, but industry kind of came in, introduced these new cultures, these new ways of looking at life. Land ownership, drinking non-ceremoniously, drinking just to please oneself, smoking just to please oneself, without any kind of circumstance or purpose for it,
Right.
other than self-adulation. And that concept didn't really exist in the indigenous cultures until it was introduced to them.
Right.
And so all of a sudden you make this culture dependent on a service you provide.
So do you think that's why we have such a problem with alcohol addiction on like reservations?
Absolutely. And it has nothing to do... I'm a scientist, first and foremost, and sometimes my adherence to facts and logic and numbers makes me come off as a sexist, or I don't know.
It's the Sam Harris syndrome, but go ahead.
But that culture evolved far away from the European culture,
Right.
Completely removed, like the difference between us and Mars at the time, and that can be. And that's known just because of the immunities that the settlers had at the time. We can metabolize some of these diseases. The indigenous cultures of the time, the Algonquins, the Cherokees, they could not.
Yeah. Oh well. So we brought everything bad about our culture and took everything good from their culture.
Exactly.
And said, hey, would you like syphilis?
And I'm not.
Here you go.
I'm not apologizing.
Would you like tuberculosis? We'll give you that too.
I'm not apologizing for the colonization of this country. You and I wouldn't be here.
No.
The podcast wouldn't be here. I mean, what has happened has happened, and I'm not going to apologize
But
for
I
it.
came here in my path to getting here was different than yours.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
I don't know. I got a lot of Irish in me.
There
was caravans of Irish coming over that nobody wanted.
Pretty damn close equal amount of
Maybe
Irish,
one level difference
Irish.
on the ship.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe.
We're both on that fucking ship.
Yeah, but we were both there.
Our
And neither of us-
ancestors.
neither of us-
We shouldn't say ourselves because let's face it, we were born in the greatest country in the
Yeah,
world.
absolutely.
I know I had 2 parents.
Oh, yeah, I
and a
had
fucking
I
nice
cannot
house,
complain, but I
and
actually
suburbs and a fucking. I had a
can't
toy
complain.
box.
Can't complain.
What I mean,
Love
a
America.
toy box. So we had fucking money.
I've been around, but
and my mom was a stay-at-home mom.
I do think that despite our problems, America is capable of dealing with diversity better than most other countries. I can tell you that. 100% faith in that. But I'm not apologizing for what happened to the continent. I just want people to realize why some of these things are happening. It doesn't happen for no reason. When you see a large instance of alcoholism in the Native American culture, that's kind of where they've been shoehorned for the last 400-ish years.
So in fact, if you are, and again, I've heard so many different things. If you're Native American or American Indian, or if you're Sioux or Cherokee or Tohono O'odham, forgive me for calling you the wrong thing, but most importantly, please contact us at hardthoughtspodcast@gmail.com, and please come on the show, because we really are not educated on this topic of what it's like to be you, and I would love to talk to somebody who would be able to give us insight and give our listeners
And these are the
insight on
people
it.
that are rightfully here.
Yeah.
They started here. They helped us. We wouldn't be here without them.
Right.
As much as they helped us out in our our Lewis and Clark expedition era.
But you can say that you can say the same thing about the African slaves, the Chinese that built the railroads,
Absolutely.
the Irish. Everybody that came in at some point.
the English, the Dutch,
everybody.
the French. That's what makes America great.
We kind of rode on their back for a little while until they were like,
America
"Hey,
great,
okay,
but
that's
at
enough
the
of
same
that
time, you can't just sit here and clap each other on the back saying that, hey, we don't have nothing to learn. You got to
Right.
learn from your mistakes.
Yeah. So here's the thing though, we are getting into a realm where we're doing something that I think is one of the downfalls of our society, is that we're focusing blame instead of maybe looking for solutions.
Yeah.
and that is such a human thing to do. It's a very human, it's a very American thing to do, but it's not just American. It's just human, especially in modern times where it's just like it's the other guy. It's that guy on welfare. He's the one. He's coming in my country and he's making my taxes higher.
I think it's actually a very Western Hemisphere thing going on.
So.
Or industrialized nation.
And then you have that, and then you have the left and the right, and they're like, oh no, you're wrong about this issue, and it's your fault that the debt is so high, and we go back and forth and we point fingers, and like, are we really looking for solutions? And do we even? Here's the big thing, and this is why I love Andrew Yang. As a presidential candidate, are we even looking at the right problems?
Absolutely not. I don't think we're looking at the right problems whatsoever. I think the powers that be, the systems that kind of run everything, that is still a throwback to the Industrial Revolution days. I mean, we're still operating off of the same kind of system that built the railroads.
Right.
That settled, you're talking about Nebraska was the Wild West at the time. And so, like, these are the systems that are still kind of in power right now, and we've gone so far past that that it's incredible to think that we are still being managed on that kind of same kind of thought line, because this is not the Industrial Revolution anymore.
It's not?
I'm sorry.
I'm glad it's not, because you know where I'd be?
It's okay. I'd be building the prisons that my ancestors would later occupy, or my future generations would later occupy. That's what. Yeah. And I'd be maintaining golf courses, but not allowed to play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not until like 32. That's when they let us redbeards finally be cops. That's where all of a sudden you get the Irish cop.
Oh yeah, and that's still a tradition.
Well, and here's the thing: the Irish were displaced and kind of paddy wagons, hooligans.
Right.
Those are all kind of based off of that culture, and so when it came time for them to be acceptable parts of society, a bunch of them became cops because they're like, oh, tooraloo, okay, the shoe's on the other foot now, ain't it? Okay.
Oh, Aaron go, brah.
Nothing to say here. Carry on.
That is so awesome.
I honestly think that's why so many of them became cops. And, and then some of them had fortunate circumstance and became Kennedys.
Now, are you saying it was unfortunate because the Kennedys have really bad luck, or you have a problem with the Kennedys?
No, the Kennedys have. Well, I mean the social responsible good Kennedys had bad luck.
Well, but even like the ones that weren't socially responsible, they had some pretty bad luck, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
They accidentally murdered people. And,
I'm no ex-cop, but I don't think a murder can be 100% accidental.
Well, I don't know.
It was manslaughter.
See, I was about to say, and Ted's not around, and he's the lion of the Senate, and I miss him, but he did kind of fuck up. He was
not perfect. He
kind of fucked up.
He doesn't know how to drive over a bridge correctly. Come on, Ted.
Oh, man.
Google it, you kids that are too young to remember.
Chappaquiddick.
It's a great little slice of Americana.
It is.
And
that's something we were talking about last week, like that for every great thing that America does, there's something really like heinous. Like, so if this is something that there always tends to be polls, or it even tends to be bar conversation, who do you think was the greatest president? And like everybody kind of defaults to Abraham Lincoln.
Wrong.
But I think it was I think it was FDR.
Ow, you son of a bitch.
I think it was FDR, but here's the thing about FDR.
You're so
as
left.
Great as FDR was with, he created Social Security and Medicare and, basically decided that we should have a safety net.
He's the reason why there's term limits.
Right. He's the reason there's term limits. He's the reason that we won the war.
And what was he? Wasn't he some sort of being that he invented?
White guy?
No.
Weren't they all white guys?
Most of them.
There was this one, like, half white guy. But
no, Hawaii ain't no goddamn state.
Anyway, as good as he was, He was responsible for the internment of
camps.
United States citizens.
George Takei.
He put Japanese American people, most of whom were citizens or at least legal residents, into fucking concentration camps.
This was at a time, Adrian, where we did get the whole, Japan went in our classroom. We were sitting down at our desk, trying not to mess with Germany and England. We were just minding our own business.
Yeah, we were staying out of it.
And Japan came in and just spilt our milkshake all over our laps.
Yeah.
And so we had to get up and do something.
Right, but there's a line where you defend yourself versus commit atrocities. So I was just using FDR as an example. You can use a more modern example of there are some people who hate Barack Obama and some people who love Barack Obama. But the truth is,
it's all right.
He was a mediocre president, but he meant well. He did.
He was the PR guy we needed for the time.
Right, he did basically a lot of the right things, and he set us on the path to the economy that we have now. But at the same time, he murdered a bunch of motherfuckers with drones.
Absolutely.
He murdered a bunch of fucking people with drones. Innocent people. So, again, you got great things that he did, and you have atrocities.
And I'll say this about all modern presidents. Let's go back to Bush Sr., Clinton.
I loved Bush
Jr. Me too. And 45. I'm going to lump him in there because he is elected, and he'll probably be elected again.
And here's the thing about 45. But go ahead, finish your point.
You go to work as a cook, you're going to get burned. You're going to go to work as a cop, you're going to get shot at.
Yeah.
You go to work as a politician, you're going to get bloody. Your
and
hands are going to get bloody.
These are also collective decisions because there's no way you can. There's no way that
King of
that
America.
FDR woke up and said, "Yeah, let's put all the Japanese in the fucking camps." No, people came to him and they were like, "Hey, probably generals and advisors. They were like,
economic advisors.
We've got, and I'm just throwing out a number just to say a number. I know it's not the right number. We've got 10,000 Japanese people here in America, and they could be spies. We've already proven that some of them were spies at Pearl Harbor. What are we going to do?"
Well, and I want people to remember that because even Dr. Seuss was writing at the time like what would be now considered very racist comics.
Right.
About, and it was anti-Japanese sentiment
Yeah.
at the time, kind of like how we were reflecting about the Islamic and Muslim cultures nowadays, even though that's more of a theology and idealism kind of thing than an actual race of people, but still it kind of factors into the same kind of funnels, into the same kind of areas of thinking. You got to be careful about painting with broad strokes.
Right. Yeah, so one of the things I've been saying for probably 30 years is that
your whole life?
I wish. But people, especially in America, lack sophistication and nuance. That you look at especially now, you look at an issue or a subject or a person in history and you paint it with a certain brush.
Why do people lack that kind of critical thinking? Specifically American culture. Why does American culture lack critical thinking? Because
I don't know. It's become this thing.
This last 72-hour news cycle. We have a shooting at a synagogue, and we got this ice cream truck van of hate guy. What's his name? I don't know. The guy who mailed out all the.
And to be completely fair, he's not a white dude.
No, hang on, I'm bringing it up right now. But it is a Floridian, super duper Republican Trump supporter, and I'm not lumping everybody. I know people. I love people. That
I'm looking at some
Donald
of
Trump,
them right now,
and I love those people, and I have nothing wrong with them, and that's okay. But so it was Aventura, Florida. That's such a Floridian name, Aventura.
Aventura.
Just call it Clearwater. Cesar Sayoc.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are, of course, the knee-jerk thing to do nowadays because of goddamn ancient aliens it's false flag, conspiracy. Oh, it's a no. Sometimes facts are just facts.
Yeah,
guys.
facts are just facts. And
And the head and Trump's appointed FBI director actually came through and said, no, this was legit. The guy was a crazy person.
yeah,
So, hey, just own up to it. Sometimes there's crazy folks. That doesn't mean we
Right.
think you are all crazy people.
right. And that brings me back to the law enforcement conversation. Is that still, if you look at the numbers, the terrorism that happens in America, where people die or things get blown up or whatever, is not a majority Muslim terrorists. It's right wing, militia.
Oh, Americans have no
yeah.
problem killing each other.
Yeah,
We
It's-
don't need help from
Yeah.
other countries.
And it's definitely one of the things I think we've learned, and I hope everybody else has learned. It's like it's definitely not about race. It's
No.
about
It can be as something as simple as rival college sports or professional sports
Oh,
teams people
geez,
will
yes.
get hurt at.
yes,
What was that at the Raiders game 2 weeks ago or something like that?
yeah,
But again, I think what we're looking at, and you hit the nail on the head, Ace, it's a lack of critical thinking.
yeah. But here's something that I've always struggled with. I trained hundreds of paramedics in my time, and one of the things when I would say 80% of them, like, it was they get it, but there's always that percentage of people where it's just like, they just don't get it. Like, they have the knowledge, they have the skills, but they don't get the critical thinking part. And I have always said, and I've been told by educators that I'm wrong, but I have always said, I don't know that you can teach critical thinking. I think you can teach the tools, but I don't know that you can teach critical thinking. Where are you with that?
Okay, so, wow. Let me gather my thoughts real quick, but try to talk through it. So, critical thinking, all of a sudden I have like this image of an amoeba chasing a piece of food.
Right.
Okay, so it goes back that far. That's what critical
Yeah.
thinking is. I think effective critical thinking should be at the base of your fucking brainstem.
Right.
Okay, you want to breathe, you want a shelter, you want food, and that's your basis of critical thinking that all multicellular organisms have.
Right.
Flash forward a couple billion years of evolution, here me and you are, trying to do a podcast from
Two
a fucking
monkeys.
bar, a couple hyper-evolved apes. We're not doing so bad.
No, we're doing all right.
And I think that latent survival skill does exist in all of us. Okay, we all want to survive. We all want to be comfortable, regardless of background in religion, race, sexual orientation, blah 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 blah. We all want to be safe and comfortable. That does not always translate to behavior. I think we've evolved so fast socially
Right.
that we've not been able to catch up internally in our brains and on how to communicate with each other, which is it does take evolution
Yeah,
for
and
that to happen.
I
I mean,
just-
ants can communicate with each other with pheromones.
Right. I look at what I look
trying
at
to
complex
communicate too
problems. I look at complex problems, and for me, it's you're in the back of an ambulance and you have a patient that's in trouble, but you're not really sure what's going on, and you have training, you have equipment, you have skills, and a paramedic who has critical thinking skills is able to either think outside the box or think within the box and say, this is what we have to do.
Is critical thinking the same as quick thinking?
Here's there's a problem with that.
Because that was the first thing when you were talking about paramedics.
It's not the same. It's not the same. But at the same time, with the things that we're facing, and I want to thank the lovely Erica for serving us and taking care of us.
We are doing this
here at Famous Sam's
during business hours at a bar, and we're manipulating so much space.
Oh my God, they should charge us.
They could have made like $1,000 off the place we're occupying right now, and they let us do this. We are
Stop putting money figures out there
We're-
for Richard to charge us.
No, I want them to pay us. We are occupying Sam's, and that's okay. We're eating some breakfast, drinking some beer. It's okay. You know, it's 11:53 somewhere.
That's awesome. Yeah, but you bring up a good point.
Critical thinking is not the same as fast thinking.
No, but are you able to critically think quickly?
How?
So I think if you separate them, because I'm using that example because that's where my basis for that opinion comes from. My basis for the opinion that you can't teach critical thinking, you can teach the tools around it, but it comes from being in that situation. It comes from being in the back of an ambulance or being in an ER and watching a medic student or a new medic fuck up.
Okay.
Or, I wouldn't let them fuck up, but about to fuck up. And it's like, if you would have used,
I'm just thinking about somebody you're like, I'm not going to let him fuck up. This is the third time he's trying to do a blood draw on this poor fucker's tendon.
But that's the kind of thing. That's just a skill thing. That's a skill thing. What I'm talking about is, people don't understand that paramedics. So, do you know what paramedic means?
Okay, so para, which comes from parachute.
Next to. Para, next to.
Medic, which comes from snakes on a stick.
Next to doctor.
All right.
Next to doctor. And that's not only the nature of our relationship, but that's what we are.
I don't know what that means, but I do know what binomial nomenclature is.
Fuck you.
No, you know what? Fuck you. You just got breakfast. Everybody listening at home.
Yes, but nobody's going to hear me eating it because I'm awesome.
Those of you that are watching, this motherfucker just got a delicious breakfast. And he's eating it
next
to me.
The people on YouTube are going to see me eat. So
that's
sorry.
Fine. That's what it's about. We're taking the fact that we're just a couple of a-holes with some time on our hands in a bar, and we're bringing that home to you. We're bringing that experience home to your ears.
Plus, as much as I want us to go viral, the thing is, I don't want to pass out on air.
How?
So I had to get some food.
From some sort of viral thing. So as you were saying about how important it is to think quickly and critically in the paramedic.
So let's remove the time constraint away from it.
Okay, so I honestly think you either have it or you don't.
Right.
So coming back to the critical thinking.
We completely agree about that. So when I look at the world problems, I look at people like Andrew Yang, who's like, hey, look, we got this thing coming. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. And nobody's fucking talking about it. And now people are talking about it kind of in the periphery. But we're not, Mitch McConnell is not talking about automation. Mitch McConnell and fucking Paul Ryan are not talking about AI. They're talking about how can they, cut taxes for a 15th time.
Mitch
for the
McConnell
rich.
and Paul Ryan are playing in the same arena that they were in 1912.
Exactly.
There is no progression with these people. And I think they're misinterpreting a lot of their constituency because, they always play on the Christian right, which I have a big heart to. I have a lot of friends and family that I love dearly in the Christian right side of things. And I can tell you 100% that not all of them are falling in lockstep with Ryan and McConnell and Trump.
No.
A lot of them are
part of what we're talking about.
Modern free
people
thinkers.
Are individuals.
Here's the thing: critical thinking. Yes, you either have it or you don't. You were expressing it in your paramedic field, even in the professional cooking field. You have to be quick. You have to be concise and consistent.
Right.
And that is not, I can train somebody how to peel a carrot. And that's the first thing you are going to do. If you come in and I train you, I'm going to have you peel about 10 pounds of carrots. And I'm not looking for how fast you peel them or how, what tools you use. I'm just looking at how you attack that project in general because it's a simple thing. You're going to have to do it 1,000,000 times over. And it's going to show me how you stage your area, where you're going to put the peels, where you're going to put the clean carrots. It might seem so simple. It might seem like a stupid freaking task. But it's something that I can gain a lot of knowledge on about your work character.
Right.
on how you handle, how you approach that task. And I'm not looking for quality or quickness. I'm looking at how you approach the task.
Yeah,
And that
so-
involves critical thinking, whether it is doing a blood draw or finding some vitals real quick,
I
or
will
peeling a
suck your
carrot,
blood.
or God dang it! I'm remembering this one time I was working at Tucson has the Gem and Mineral Festival, which is coming up here pretty soon. One of the largest collections of gem and mineral parties on the entire globe. Tucson swells by about 250,000 people, if not more.
Good time to be an Uber driver, trust me.
Absolutely. And I was working at a kitchen down there. We had this this guy I knew, a director of food and beverage, hired me in to work some sauté, some of the higher functions of the line. No problem. Love the guy, love the kind of work. Let's do this. Bringing in this new hire. This kid just got done with some sort of a collegiate academy of cooking. Thought he knew everything. Was upset that I put him on salads because I'd never met him.
Right.
I don't know what he's capable of. And when you're dealing with food, you're dealing with what makes people healthy or unhealthy. And
Yeah.
I have a very strict standard. If I'm not going to serve it to my mom and pa, I won't serve it to you. I don't care
Right.
if you're 45. I don't care if you're the worst person in the world. I'm always going to give you my best work. This kid threw like an iceberg of like French fries thing in hot oil in the deep fryer. So here's the thing, critical thinking. You can have all the schooling. You can have spent $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in trying to get an education.
Right. But some people just don't have it.
But if you're not able to apply that knowledge into real world,
Right. And that's what I
Scenarios.
worry about with our electorate. I worry about that with our electorate. I look at people who I know are good people. I know they're morally sound. I know they're not, they don't mean to be racist, even if they are unintentionally racist.
I believe a lot of us are unintentionally racist.
Oh yeah, I am too.
I
Man,
don't
I
think
catch
any of
myself
us-
all the time going, "Wow, that was racist."
Yeah.
But really, no. Like when I'm
Especially when we're talking to each other, right?
yeah, I'm like messing around, and all of a sudden I do a really horrible Mexican accent. I'm like, why did I do that? You know what I mean? Like, why did I do that?
Let me bring something up real quick. Have I
Yeah,
ever
go ahead.
used a black scent around you?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But if you did, I think I'd call y'all monkey ass on it.
It's my cracker ass, please. Because I have a big problem with that. Because
No, but I think we all do. Like we all kind of slip into those things. So, but what I was saying is, I know a lot of people who have conservative ideas, and it's not about them being bad people. It's not about us versus them. It's about them being unable to think critically, unable to look at what the problems are,
particular situation.
and how we're going to solve them, and not even being able to identify the real problems. So it's definitely something. And so we have a friend that's a psychologist, so maybe we should have her on. And we definitely need to maybe have an educator on and talk about critical thinking.
I also know some people that work in the mental health field that have doctorates, and we should definitely have them on pretty soon.
Yeah.
We're going to wrap this installment up pretty soon, but you know what? I feel like doing maybe another one here after a little while. I don't have to go to work for a while.
Okay.
We might be seeing you guys again. You might get a double dose here pretty soon. If you're subscribing, you might see 2 of these fully loaded hour-plus long podcasts coming up, or maybe even 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Me and Adrian are feeling great this week.
We'll spread them out, though. So, again, we want to thank Famous Sam's in Tucson, Arizona. Golf Links in Kolb, 7129 East Golf Links. We want to thank Guitar Center for all their help. We want to thank Heart and Soul Band, especially EJ Laveras, for the great advice on these shotgun mics, because they sound fan-fucking-tastic.
And we want to have you guys on the show, too.
Yeah. Well,
we want-
let's
we
do
want
one
you to
thing at a time,
perform.
because we're trying to get them to perform for basically free at my wedding reception. So, but Tracy's got that under control. So, and so I just kind of want to end this podcast as I end every podcast. I love you, Tracy. YouTube, did it work? We're going to find out.